You are not alone. Hey kids, this is what SprintX is telling hundreds of entrepreneurs and talented teams that are looking for a way to launch their own business. They have identified these needs of the startups of today to build the industries of tomorrow. SprintX is developing business ideas, plus launching the promotion of their future ICOs, plus listing them on SprintX's own exchange. SprintX is unleashing a new age of support for startups and ICOs, and you can be part of it. ICOs have had legal issues, scams are rampant, and fake projects taint the reputation of legitimate ones. SprintX will filter and verify all startups doing ICOs as legitimate companies that will follow a strict business discipline so they become profitable and successful for all investors. Startups have issues after doing their ICOs to convert their funds since most are done raised in crypto but need to be cashed into fiat afterwards. SprintX will use SwitchX as crypto and fiat exchange. That will convert and embrace crypto and fiat, conforming to laws and regulations while supporting cryptocurrencies for all of our investors and users. Lastly, SprintX will use Nova as the startup incubator that will accelerate growth for all of the startups they support and build their first ever tech hub for startups in LATAM. This means entrepreneurs from all over the world can come to Nova and develop their companies in a tech hub that will be turned into a real crypto smart city. It's almost like Disneyland for people in crypto and people who are smart and people that want to live in a city. Visit SprintX.io to learn more and sign up now. Tell them Crypto the Wonder Dog sent you. And when you're there, watch for little crypto wonder dogs roaming the streets and scratch them on the head. They won't bite. Toss them a Bitcoin and they'll sit under a shade tree and enjoy the afternoon. Okay. Let's get to the program. Podcasting and doing YouTube shows is it's a thankless job sometimes, but occasionally you come across somebody who makes it all worthwhile, and they sometimes they're in the same boat you are. I had a great conversation with my buddy Matt Aaron from Bitcoin.com. He is the head of Bitcoin Latin America. Also, he runs all of their podcasts and shows and everything. Super cool cat. We had a great conversation, and we're going to meet up here pretty soon. He's coming to a couple of shows that I'll be attending. And maybe we can start doing some shows together, because this guy is super cool. We had a great conversation. He's down in Colombia, man. So Matt runs the podcast network at Bitcoin. They have 3 shows at the moment. The Bitcoin, This Week in Bitcoin, Blockchain 2025, and Humans of Bitcoin. He's also head of Latin America Bitcoin, and he's been podcasting since 2013 when he launched Food Startups podcast. He's a food entrepreneur. He exports exotic fruits from South America to the U.S. This is the cool conversation that I had with a cool cat named Matt Aaron. You guys ready to start the show? All right, let's start the show. Two pros going at it, head to head. And we're going to have incredible audio on this, man.
I hope so, yeah. I mean, the audio is just a difficult thing, and I'm definitely no expert at this stuff, and it's it's very humbling sometimes when you record something, you think you have the perfect interview, and then you're like, what happened to the sound at minute 5:47?
Yep. I was recording through one channel for the first 20 something episodes, and I couldn't understand what the hell was going on, and I just had the wrong cable plugged in. That was it. I just had the wrong cable plugged in. I went through 2 episodes where I recorded, I could hear it, but after it was recorded, there was nothing there. So I had to go back and re-record those. So I feel your pain,
man.
man. I feel your pain.
Yeah, we all have those follies, and then sometimes you're like, why is my sound so bad? And you realize that in your computer, you've selected the built-in microphone to the laptop and not the expensive microphone you purchased. That's happened to me before.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're obviously doing this by yourself, right? You don't have a crew with you.
I don't know.
Yeah, me too. I'm right here. I'm doing this by myself, man. I'm a one-man show. I got my computer set up. I got my mic. I got my mixer, and just from being in video production and doing shows and realizing how important sound is. And when you're doing a podcast, I mean, my gosh, that's 99% of what you're doing is sound.
Yeah, and what do you find more, like, the biggest move you mentioned, the terry cloth on the wall or the mixer? Like, what do you think has made a better difference in terms of the quality of your sound?
Oh, well, this is like an old-ass mixer. I mean, this Mac E12, I mean, you could probably pick these up on eBay now for maybe $50 or something. But it's a 12-channel mixer, but it has incredible great sound. And I've always... Yeah, I've used this for so many different projects. I've had it on location, plugged it into battery packs, and had it on location. But I think the microphone. I think you start with a good microphone, the mixer, and then the terry cloth, the little frames that you can just search sound. What did I search? It was like sound deadening, what the hell did I search? How to soundproof a room and how to for sound stages. And I built this gigantic studio for a company that I was working for last year, and they wanted to start doing video production. And it was in this gigantic warehouse, and they didn't have the budget to go out and buy these super expensive sound pads. And I just went on to YouTube, and I searched do-it-yourself soundproofing, and I came across a guy that he had this microphone test, and he had all these different products set up, and the one that did the best job was building a wooden frame, stuffing it full of terry cloth towels, and then covering it with a terry cloth towel, and it actually had the best sound dampening of all the products, and it was the cheapest. So if you can find that on YouTube, you'll save just a mountain of money on sound, and the sound is incredible. It's great.
Yeah, this is the first time I've been blown away by, because I've been interviewed on other podcasts, but this is the first time I've been blown away by the clarity of the sound of the person interviewing me. So kudos, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I think it helped being in video and TV for a while to realize that when you're listening to something on the radio, you want to hear something clear. You don't want to hear scratchy or bouncy or in and outs, and that's usually what I've been getting with people, especially if they're in their house and they're walking around while they're talking to me. It goes in and out, and you're like, oh, if they could only hear what you're doing when you're walking through your house, you're killing the interview, man. So yeah. But no, you sound great, and I think we're gonna have a great show here. So we're two cut from the same cloth, apparently, for the love of Bitcoin and the crypto world, and also wanting to start working with the general public and doing podcasts. So, what's your story, man? You got with one of the big dogs, Bitcoin.com.
Well, yeah, man. So how did I get to Bitcoin.com? So a year ago, like last April, 2017, my background, I've done a lot of different things, but I was exporting fruit, and I still do, from Colombia to the United States. And we had a frost where we lost most of our crop. And I had all this like free time, and it was kind of at a point where I wanted to enter the creative active phase and start learning about things again. And at first, I started reading about cryptography. I took that free course at Stanford, and then I read Digital Gold by Nathaniel Popper, and I just became hooked on Bitcoin and public blockchains. And so I had been podcasting for a while, because I had a podcast that I recently sold called the Food Startups Podcast. And so when I was in the food industry, I just did that as a hobby, and it was a great way to to learn, and had a nice little community, man. I really enjoyed doing that. So that's how I learned to podcast. And from there, I was like, all right, I'm going to start a crypto podcast. And so I started a podcast with a buddy called 5 Minute Crypto. And this is probably December. I interviewed Roger Ver, and talking to Roger after, I kind of just said, hey, listen, Bitcoin.com, I mean, that's a amazing piece of digital real estate. You're doing a lot of great stuff, but I think you could step it up with the podcast network. So a week later, I'm on board making podcasts and building the podcast network for Bitcoin.com.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's, and you guys are doing some crazy, some great podcasts. I love I'm looking at it right now. We got it up on the screen. You got This Week in Podcast, Humans of Bitcoin, or This Week in Bitcoin, Humans of Bitcoin. Talk to me about those things. How'd you come up with those?
Yeah, so the first thing I decided was like, okay, we need to have a network because there's some great shows, especially on the technical side, but it's not one size fits all. So the idea of having a network is we could, bring on other people and think of it like a much, like a mini HBO where we have different shows. And we started out with This Week in Bitcoin, which is a 15, usually 10-minute weekly news summary.
Okay.
That's published every Friday morning, and I take advantage of the Bitcoin.com news team. So I have Kai in the UK and Cindy in China.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, Bitcoin.com has a full news team, right? So they kind of curate the content for me, and it's pretty exciting too for those that are investing, trading, want to keep up with things. I mean, Cindy in Shenzhen, she gives me stuff that hasn't been published in English, like English language news about China, which is pretty cool to, as like a feature for the podcast. And that was the first one. Then we launched Humans of Bitcoin, which my friend Katie did the first season, and I took it over about 2-3 weeks ago. And that's just telling stories of people and how their lives have been changed by crypto and Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And the third show is Blockchain 2025, which, and that's each week, each episode. It's Nick Cutanero and myself. We look at an industry, whether it's music, art, gambling. We look at the current state. Then in the second part, we say, okay, how could blockchain technology and public blockchains disrupt this industry? And then the third part, we highlight some projects, some ICOs, some new cryptocurrency projects that are trying to solve it. And so that's what we have right now. We have 3 shows, and hopefully, maybe add another show in the next couple of months as well.
Wow, that's great. And you're doing all these?
Yeah, I'm doing all these. I'm podcasting all the time, as you can imagine.
Holy crap! And you're in Colombia.
I'm in Colombia. Yeah.
That's insane, man. So, do you ever get any of these people to come down and hang out with you, or are you doing this strictly over the phone, or what?
Well, I hung out with some at the North American Bitcoin Conference in Miami. I mean, so Bitcoin.com, they put me in touch with a lot of people, and I do plan on meeting some of them. I have met some of the people I've brought on the show at the conferences.
Okay.
But you get a lot of like, hey, if you're ever in Los Angeles or if you're ever in London, hit me up. So yeah, I think I'm building a nice little network here of crypto nerds around the world.
Wow. And so how often do you get out of Colombia?
Good question. I'd say about 3 to 4 times a year.
Okay.
Usually go back to the U.S., but I'm trying to travel to some other countries soon. I may be going to Asia next month. But yeah, I mean, so I have the fruit business, but I have that like right now. I'm mostly doing logistics and sales, and my business partner handles all the difficult stuff. So I can move around, but you know how it is. It's just nice having a routine. Dean, where are you based out of?
I'm actually in Orange County, California.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'd like to go visit the LA area soon.
Oh, you've also obviously been there, right? To LA?
Yeah, I have. I love like Culver City, Venice Beach area. Okay. I think it's pretty cool.
And did you come out to one of the crypto podcasts or a crypto show out here?
No, but as you probably know, there are so many crypto conferences everywhere and all the time. It's remarkable.
Yeah, I was just at one a couple of I guess it was last Monday. I can't remember what it was. It was in Beverly Hills, and it was actually at a friend of mine's restaurant, the District by Hannah On in Beverly Hills, and it was crazy because I've only been to a few of these, but you start recognizing people right away that you've seen before. Like, oh my God, hey, there's this guy that I interviewed a couple of months ago, and this lady that I met on LinkedIn, which seems to be the hot spot for meeting people in the space here. Anu Bardwaj, and she's really heavily into women and blockchain and empowering women, and she's such a cool girl to hang out with. And when we walked in, like everyone knew her. Everyone was like, "Oh, Anu." And so it was crazy how big the place is, but how what a tight knit community it seems to be at the same time.
Yeah. It's it was pretty cool. I remember do you know Crypto? He like CRYPT0. He has a pretty good YouTube channel.
Oh, really?
And I remember getting in the elevator. I was like, Crypto? Dude, I watch your show. So I get the small world thing, and I think it's a lot bigger now. And from the people that I've brought on that were here from the olden days, I mean, it was a very small world before, when it was Roger, Neri Voorhees, and Charlie Shrem. Pretty small community.
Yes, and it's really, when you get into it, it's really loud. But if you're not into it, it's almost virtually silent. There's no natural buzz about it if you're not already in it.
Yeah, for sure. Once you're in it, it seems like everyone's in it, but it's still a very small percentage of human beings.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but when you're walking down the street, or you meet one of your friends or family, and you say, "Hey, are you into Bitcoin yet?" And they're like, "Oh, the fake money," or they know nothing about it. And
sure.
And you feel like you have to educate them. You're gonna have to give them your elevator pitch, in like 5 minutes, and try to explain the whole world of Bitcoin without losing them right away. That's what I get all the time.
Yeah, it's quite difficult.
Yeah, it is, man. But I kind of feel like we're drinking the Kool-Aid and enjoying it, and once you get into it, you understand. You're like, oh, this makes total sense. I get this now, and I get how how easily you can be scammed, but at the same time, how when it's real, you see that, okay, this is great. It's gonna change the world. It's gonna help so many people. It's going to fix so many problems. And when you see that, and you get all warm and fuzzy about it, right?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you really quick. So Dean, check this out. Let me pull this up here on my computer. I have a script because like right now, what day is April 24th that you're recording?
Yeah.
Let me pull this up. So reference name, okay, Gabby. So when the price is going up, more people are saying, "Hey, I want to buy Bitcoin." When it's going down, they're like, no one really, you don't get as many, we'll say, people from the general public interested in what you're doing, right? But in any event, so I have people come up to me and say, "Well, friends, like, hey, Matt, I finally want to get involved in Bitcoin." So here's what I tell them: step one, download a wallet. Whether it's Bread Wallet, Bitcoin.com wallet, Edge, get a cryptocurrency wallet. Teach them how to do the PIN, the keys and stuff, and then and then buy some crypto. You can go on localbitcoins.com. And you just get like a couple $100 worth, and then your city, you're gonna once you buy it, the whole effect where if you own a gray Nissan, you see more gray Nissans. The same thing with Bitcoin. You're gonna see establishments that are, and then and just try buying like a coffee or a beer with Bitcoin. And that's I'm not saying that's the way to do it, but that's how I like to tell my friends to get involved. Don't put a ton of money into it. Just learn, feel it, get a feel for it, of what it's like. And see if you're interested. And if it was cool, it's cool for you, great. If you think it's, hey, this is the stupidest thing ever, I just wasted time. I should have just bought with my credit card. No worries. But usually you'll probably have your learning process ignited, and you'll just start reading, understanding the space because you want to, which is the best way. Not when like they're, oh, Matt told me to read this book, but when they really want to on their own, and then they're in.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. You're getting people excited about it, and yeah, like you said, when price is going up, people are, they're cheering and they're clapping and they're going, "Oh my God, this is so great!" And it starts going down, and the first thing you hear, people around me is, "See, I told you, it's just a bubble, and it's just popping. You're going to lose all your money." And a buddy of mine told me, he said, "Hey, when people are partying, sell, and when there's blood in the streets, buy." So that's kind of started following that, and I've turned my portfolio around a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think about right now? It depends what time frame you look at, right? But it's been quite a little upswing in the last couple of days.
Oh my God, yeah. It's right now we're looking at 93.61 according to Bitcoin.com. 93.61, which is crazy. And my buddy was telling me, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to buy it at 63," and it was at like 67. I'm like, "No, you need to buy now. You better buy now." He didn't buy it. And we played golf a couple of days ago, and I'm like, "Hey, so when are you going to get in?" He's like, "When it goes to 63." I'm like, "Yeah, good luck." I don't know if it's going to go back down there, but I think you missed your opportunity.
We always joke that, like, obviously, podcast downloads, if you have any type of website around the crypto community, if the price goes down, you're going to get less visits, and if the price goes up, you're going to get more, right? There's going to be this effect. But we always joke, like, oh yeah, if like the price of like the crypto market goes under 100 billion total, and Bitcoin's at like $1,000, and not too many people are going to be listening to the podcast, and that's just kind of a volatile market where definitely the price definitely drives a lot of the excitement and interest and public interest in the space.
Yes, absolutely. And you see, I saw an illustration on, I think it was on LinkedIn, and it showed this cartoon how to what to buy and what to sell in crypto, and there's this line, and then understanding blockchain, and there's no one in front of that guy. So people, they're looking for the warm and fuzzy and how to get more money out of this, but they're not really looking at what's the real, what's running this car, what's the engine behind it, and they don't pay a whole lot of attention to the blockchain itself. And I think that's where once they start educating people and start figuring that out, I think that'll bring a lot more people from the general public into it, when realizing, hey, it's not monopoly money, it's real. It's just as real as that dollar bill you got in your pocket.
Yeah, and just like anything, knowledge is power. This could apply to the stock market, I'm sure, where once you have a deeper understanding, you can make your own decisions.
Yes.
As opposed to having to follow other people. You're at the whim of them telling you when to buy, when to sell, and that's dangerous for many reasons, right?
That's exactly right. And, you ask somebody, okay, they're like, "Oh, well, you don't know anything about blockchain or blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Okay, well, tell me what's the latest news." And you have stock in McDonald's. Okay, tell me what's the latest news on McDonald's. And they can't say a word. Okay, what about IBM? You brag about IBM. Tell me about IBM. Why did you buy that stock? Because everyone else is doing it. Well, you're not doing any more education than anybody else is in this world. So, it's just a brand new game, and I think a lot of people are scared of it because it's so new. It's like when fire was introduced to cavemen. It scared the hell out of them.
For sure. I think that's natural, right? Anything new is going to cause us human beings fear, and we're always resistant to change at some level.
Yeah, and I think this has been like that one thing that the world's been kind of stagnant since cell phones were introduced, or the internet was introduced, and I think this is I feel it. It's like that's that next step of evolution for mankind at this point.
Wow. That's a big statement. I agree. I think that's the more how should I put this? I believe that our conscious minds are a lot of times weaker than our instincts and our subconscious, meaning that we're unable to elaborate in words or even explain things that we know are true, or that we can feel. And there's no doubt there is that feeling that this is here to stay. And I think when to me this could happen this year, maybe not, maybe it never happens, but it's going in the right direction for sure. Like a Bitcoin ETF. because the gold ETF, that was pretty difficult to get approved. It took a long time, and that was just a few years ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, if Bitcoin gets an ETF, to me, to any of the naysayers or skeptics, that's just like, hey, it's here. It's an ETF.
It is. Yeah. And like I said, I think that's why a lot of people are scared of it, because it's not the norm. It's not natural. It hasn't been around for 100 years, and but it has been around for a long time, and that's what people don't realize. It's been around a long time, and blockchain, which has been driving it, that's been around for a while too. So it's just not it's not on ABC and CBS and NBC and Fox, so people aren't going to naturally know about it unless you're a tech junkie. So, so back to Bitcoin and back to Bitcoin wallet. Were you part of Bitcoin whenever .com, whenever like November, December, January, when all the fire was happening?
Yeah. So I joined December 12th. That was probably like in the middle of the fire.
Yeah.
And not counting this recent run up, it's gone down ever since in terms of the price. But the company is growing. I think I mentioned this. We have offices in Tokyo, Stockholm, St. Kitts, and Nevis.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Where was it? Where was it started? Where does Bitcoin.com start? Where was that?
I guess it's I'm going to say Tokyo / St. Kitts. Don't hold me to that. I mean, it's a St. Kitts and Nevisian company.
Okay.
It's not a word I use very often, but I know office in Tokyo and St. Kitts.
Okay.
One of the two.
And what kind of wallet explosion did you guys see? Because I know that was probably one of the biggest things that was happening was people were getting wallets, right?
So I don't have exact stats on that, but there's no doubt that we got tons and tons of wallet downloads in that boom.
Yeah, no, I mean, did your site crash? I mean, I was listening to the fury that was happening around Binance, because that was where I first kind of got in. Was after I got my Bitcoin wallet, I heard about Binance, about trading coins and how you could get other coins. So that's where I went next, and I guess I was one of the last ones to get in before the whole thing went down, and they stopped the enrollment. Did that happen to you guys?
Well, so I mean, we're not an exchange, right? And I think in terms of volume as well as the difficulty of managing the liquidity, I think the exchanges like Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, which I have to say, I mean, Kraken did a pretty poor job in terms of their downtime was just insane, and a lot of people were fed up. I think Kraken lost a lot of customers because of that. And listen, I have no doubt that it was a very difficult task. I mean, some of these exchanges, you might have 100,000 users, let's say, for an example, and then in the next 48 hours you get 100,000 new users. I mean, that's very difficult to manage. From just on the server load as well as just customer service.
Oh, I can't even imagine what that's like. I mean, I've never really worked for a company where it had that kind of a volume of people using something, but to go from you were probably getting 400 or 500 signups a day to over 100,000 a day.
Yeah. I mean that's that was tough to handle. I think at one point Coinbase was like the number one downloaded app on the iTunes App Store.
Yeah,
I'm almost positive that's true, and it's pretty amazing.
And they went down for a while, didn't they? Like a couple of days or something, or.
Oh yeah. I mean, they all pretty much all of them went down. I can't talk about every single exchange, but I know Bittrex had some problems. Binance was smart to stop enrollment because they came onto the scene really quick. There was like this really funny joke, pretty nerdy joke, but they're like, hey, Kraken's updated their logo, and they just showed like the 500 server area, like when you go to a website and it says like the website's down, it's like that's Kraken's new logo. And then Bitfinex, like they kicked out Americans, so I don't know if they had any problems. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing to do. It's not an easy, the security and the uptime. It's a Herculean feat for sure.
Oh my God, I'm sure those guys had no sleep. they were working round the clock to get that thing going because every minute they were offline, I mean, that's just dollars that were evaporating for them.
Totally, and I can imagine being the elite developer and just like the CEO. It's like whatever time it's like you have to be on this now, right? There's just there's certain things that you have to be on top of.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure his family didn't see him for days on end after that, or while that was happening.
And they see him like, what happened to you? You look like you're homeless or whatever. Because no sleep, just ordering food. Doing what you can to keep the exchange going.
That's crazy, man. I don't even understand that whole world of developing. I wish I could, but my mind doesn't go that big. On your show here, I was listening to a few of these, and the Renaissance woman, Bitcoin's Renaissance woman, Ruby, right? Taiwan's world class.
X-Dite.
Yes. What? Tell me about that.
Oh yeah. Okay. So this was really incredible. So actually, Cindy from our Shenzhen team, who gives me the news for This Week in Bitcoin, she kept telling me about this person named X-Dite, X-D-I-T-E, which is her hacker nickname. She's like, Matt, you have to have her on the show. She's one of the most incredible people I've ever met. And I was like, okay, well, like send me a bio. And so I brought her on the show, and she's one of the top developers in the world. But basically, her story starts out in Taipei at a university, at a computer lab, just kind of feeling bored and underwhelmed with her life. It's just kind of coasting, and she's like, I want something more. So she launches a design shop, a web design shop, and then she starts teaching people Ruby on Rails. Then she moves to China, makes it the largest like Ruby on Rails training, program in the world. And then she gets into Bitcoin, learns how to program wallets. It's just someone that she's really a Renaissance woman. She just keeps going to new things. And then she launched the largest ICO platform ever. They raised $200 million in 2 months. It's like a crypto Kickstarter. Gets shut down by China. Moves to Taipei, and so at this point, right? She's obviously programming, applied math, cryptography, being a manager, an entrepreneur, raising funding with her own money, $1 million for her own money. She starts an over-the-counter exchange called OTC BTC in Taipei, which is the largest OTC exchange in Taiwan. And I was like, wow. And I was like, did you hire someone for like the understanding the liquidity, right, of having all these? I think they have 15 or 20 different cryptocurrencies there. You understand how to manage that? She's like, no, I just learned it on my own. I was like, of course you did. Like, and then at the end of the episode, and there's some other cool things in there. They had like she had a ICO for exchange because she decided she wanted to build, which they now have a 40-person team, 6 months later, or less than 6 months later. And she raised 40,000 Ethereum in 63 seconds.
What?
40,000 Ether. And then she kind of mentioned, it kind of sounded like she was joking. She's like, hey, I'd like to run for mayor of Taipei because I think this should become like a blockchain city, and we're in a great, great location. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, and at the moment, I was like, yeah, well, who could doubt you? You've done so much, and she's only 35. And then 2 days before publishing, let's say we record this towards the end of March or maybe the beginning of April, can't remember. A couple weeks ago, 2 days before publishing, which was last week. So this was maybe like 10 days ago. A friend from Taipei, excuse me, a friend from Taipei is in town. And so I was like, hey, listen, you should check out this person, X-Dite. And she started listening to my podcast. And then she goes to, and obviously I don't speak Mandarin, I can't read it. She goes to like the Mandarin News of Taipei and she searches, and it's like, and the headline was, translated of course, Internet pop star is running for mayor of Taipei. And I was like, you're kidding me. I was like, I'm not that surprised, to be honest. And I sent her an email. I was like, X-Dite, that's amazing. And she's like, yeah, like I don't mess around. And I was like, yeah, I guess you don't. So she's running for mayor of Taipei.
Internet pop star. That's crazy.
And it's funny because like she talked about how all of them are just older, lifelong politicians. She's an entrepreneur. She's obviously a woman, and she could bring a new perspective. And they need like an entrepreneur that's focused and understands blockchain technology for the future. And people are like, yeah, like she has no chance. I know nothing about Taiwanese politics. When I say nothing, I literally know nothing. But I was like, man. She's financing the campaign with her own money. If she gets the right campaign manager, I mean, I would not be shocked when it come, this November if like, hey, Exite is now mayor of Taipei, right? Like, but even if she doesn't win, right? Like, because people are writing her off, but even if she doesn't win, I think the fact that she's going to raise a lot of awareness just by doing the campaign.
Yeah, she is. Absolutely. And you're just going to put her name on the map in politics, and she'll be getting endorsements, and oh my gosh. Yeah, what a smart lady. That's crazy.
Yeah, so if anyone listening here is in Taiwan, vote for Extech.
Yes. And then you got this 11-year-old kid becoming a Bitcoin expert at 11 with Andrew Corey.
Yeah, so this is pretty interesting because we had an article on news.bitcoin.com about this 11-year-old kid writes this 67-page book about Bitcoin, and Jamie, who's one of the lead writers and editors at the news team, he like told me, he's like, dude, I read it. It's actually really good. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And he wrote it at 11. I think he's 12 now. So Katie kind of interviewed him about his life, and as you can tell, he has the makings of a serial entrepreneur going forward. But yeah, and man, we have some pretty exciting interviews coming up, like Jeffrey Tucker. Do you know who Jeffrey Tucker is?
No, I do not. Who's Jeffrey Tucker?
He is a pretty famous economist. He's kind of in the laissez-faire, like free trade Austrian economics school. He worked with Ron Paul back in the day, and I would say he was kind of like the economist. So they needed someone to establish legitimacy, someone that, has a title in economics to say, hey, this Bitcoin thing can work. And he was the guy that risked his career and reputation back in the day saying, this thing, Bitcoin, is for real. So he's fantastic too. And I'm looking forward to that episode coming up. But yeah, I mean, Dean, I'm sure for you as well, it's amazing interviewing these people. You get to learn a lot. So it's you're serving an audience, but you're also serving yourself
exactly by making
these episodes.
Because I wanted to learn, and I'm like, well, shoot, while I'm learning, I might as well share the knowledge, right?
Oh, for sure. And people like Roger Ver, like, he's a great guy, but he's also incredibly busy. I don't think I could have just sent him an email. It's like, hey, let's jump on the phone and talk. I'm sure he gets 10,000 of those a day, but it's like, hey, come on the podcast, talk about Bitcoin Cash. Made it a little bit easier, or a lot easier, to have a conversation with him.
Yeah. And this does open the door to a lot of conversations and meeting new people. Look at us. When you're in Colombia, I would have never met you.
Yeah, no, exactly. Podcasting, I'm very bullish on podcasting as a medium. I guess I better be. Bitcoin.com's paying me to build a network, right? And but I do think that in 2017, I have to look up the stat here, but I guess it's not so important the exact numbers, but the momentum. But some type of survey showed that the number of radio hours radio hours listened compared to podcasting hours downloaded, podcasts hit 50%, meaning if there were, let's say, 80 billion radio hours listened, there were 40 billion podcast hours listened, which is that's huge.
Actually, I had pulled this up because obviously I try to get people on the show and give them stats. And the demographics for tech and cryptocurrency fields are 56% males, 18 to 34. 16% of the listeners have an income over 150,000. 30% have a college degree. They spend between 5 and 6 hours per week listening to podcasts, and 42% listen to the entire podcast. So that was some pretty crazy numbers when it came to what people do with podcasts. I didn't listen to a whole lot of podcasts. I listened to Mark Maron. I listened to Adam Carolla because I'm into cars, and that was kind of it. I have a Sirius XM radio in my car, so when I'm driving, I'm listening to the comedy channel, or I'm listening to 80s music, or I'm listening to chill music. But when I got into this, man, I couldn't find enough about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin to keep me satisfied. And I would listen to, like, I went to you heard of the guys, the Bad Crypto podcast?
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, and so I binge listened to every episode in like 4 days. I listened to everything they had, and I was just hungry for more. And that's kind of, I think that they were kind of the inspiration to start the podcast, really. And I give my hats off to those guys. They do a great job.
For sure. It's interesting. Once you get into the ecosystem, I think we're still in the infancy, right? Like, I think that podcasting, we're going to get to a point in podcasting where you'll be able to search just by like auto transcriptions of words. You'll be able to search podcasts by like the subject you're looking for. So maybe you're looking for a specific cryptocurrency podcast. I know you just covered the ones that are doing the winery, like blockchain, crypto, and wine, and then your podcast comes up. That would be like, I think that's going to happen. Or be able to, or you heard someone say something in the podcast, you remember the phrase, but you don't remember the name of the podcast. You could type in the phrase, and the podcast would come up.
That would be great.
Yeah.
That would be incredible. Yes. So you have a crap load of shows on here, and you're doing all these. So you is your business, your fruit business, is that you said you got a buddy helping you out with that?
So yeah, we have a co-founder, and then I have someone helping me in the U.S. on the logistics side. But and don't get me wrong, I have a passion for agriculture, especially like organic and in South America and in Colombia. But it's long term, I'm very interested in it. But I decided that I need to focus the majority of my time right now. This is one of those like aha moments. Like, it's not like all of a sudden Colombian agriculture is going to be finished next year. This is a slow burn in a country with a lot of potential and a lot of roadblocks. But yeah, crypto is one of those things where you have to get on right now.
Yes.
Like, I think Ryan Charles, he's been in since 2011, who we just published the episode this morning before I got in the call with you, of yours.org, and he was 6 months away from finishing his PhD in physics, and he said it changed everything. It's like, even if I would have finished my PhD, it's like those 6 months were so important that it didn't make any sense for me to continue. Whereas a lot of people would just say, oh, I already started, I should finish. But he's like, no, man, this is like right now. And that was 2011, 2013. I saw it last year. I was like, man, I can't wait. It's not something like, oh, I'll try to get into blockchain in 2019. I can't imagine how much further behind I would be in my understanding and connections in the space.
Yeah, that's the Jason Statham looking guy that's on your site here.
Yeah, and listen, I think every single person listening is just like, yeah, I wish I would have gotten involved in this a couple years ago. But the second best time is right now.
Yeah, I think so, because there's so many other opportunities besides Bitcoin that are coming out that understanding the real reason somebody should tokenize their company or their product or whatever. And, listening to, and that's probably, how we're going to be a little advantage over some people, is that we're listening to these things, and we're listening to this stuff every day. And you can hear some of the BS whenever you have a couple of people on. You can hear some of the BS that they're talking, but then you see the real reason that something's being tokenized, and you can get behind it and you feel good about it. I see that you've got a couple of episodes on here about online dating. And I've done a couple episodes with people who have two different kinds of dating apps, and I've had some people ask me, well, do you really need to tokenize dating apps? And I see it. It's probably, you're not going to get rich off it, but I can see how people could benefit other people and helping people out, and then you win tokens by giving advice. So there's some things out there that. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. It's not going to change the world, but it's cool.
Yeah, and I just want to be, just so you know, like on blockchain 2025. I mean, by the title, um, we don't like in every episode. You'll have to listen to find out which ones. I mean, some of them are like a home run. We're like, wow, like the music industry, like we desperately need blockchain. But other industries, we're like, we'll have a conclusions. And Nick and I sometimes differ, but we'll say, I don't think it's really that needed, or I don't see a huge advantage of X industry using maybe these blockchain startups. Or let me separate that. I mean, using like a public blockchain, and I'm very into public versus as opposed to private blockchain. I see it as like an internet versus Ethernet. I'm sorry, intranet. I some of these projects, and I think that's what entrepreneurship is about, right? You want to have like 10 try and 9 fail. But a lot of these projects, I don't see a use case for all of them. Or I say, I love the idea. I do see a use case, but it may be 10 years from now. And you'll see this all the time in Silicon Valley. I think IDEA, one of the really large, I'm just going to say venture capital for lack of a better word. I think they probably did venture capital, incubator, all that sort of stuff. But they've invested or seen 1,000 startups. And the most important factor was not like the talent, the vision of the founder, the team, etc. It was timing, and I think a lot of because of lack of understanding that just getting Bitcoin to be used first, and then maybe some of the more like the cloud computing, the decentralized file storage, just understanding that your timing is really important. So most, if not, a very high percentage of these, I would say, I think. My two Satoshis are too early.
I think they are, yeah. I think that people are just trying to rush into the game just to get some tokens and try to get an ICO and get rich and, whatever. So, yeah, I get it. And then once you're in it, kind of like we are, you hear more than the average bear, and you can kind of differentiating between what you think would be good and what wouldn't be good. So maybe we'll become experts someday.
Hey, yeah. I mean, right now, I don't want to misrepresent myself. I'm a beginner. Maybe I'm getting close to advanced beginner, but yeah, there's just, I mean, I don't know if anyone knows how exactly this is going to play out. So, but I can say I've come a long way in a year. So I'm proud of that. Just by reading and making some boneheaded mistakes and just talking to people smarter than myself.
Yeah, and the same thing. I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface on how much there is. And it's like every day I'm looking, my phone's dinging every 5 minutes. So some kind of news. I've subscribed to all these news channels and reading things here and there. And I've kind of got off the whole thing of trying to I got into trading for a minute, and I realized I'm not a trader, so I'm just gonna I'll leave that to the experts too, and just start learning more as much as I can about this stuff, because learning about it's gonna benefit more than learning how to trade. And I think that sniffing out the relevant coins and tokens and learning more about it, I think that's going to be great. And then kind of what we're doing is bringing the information to the people, and actually being able to talk with these movers and shakers in the space, and rubbing shoulders with them. And it's so much fun,
Yeah, I think about that too. Like your own skill stack, your understanding. You have to be really honest with yourself. One, do I love trading? Two, when all the Wall Street guys come in, am I going to be good enough to hang with them, right? And those are personal things you have to answer. For most of it, it's no. For me, it's definitely no. I enjoyed trading. I enjoyed learning about it at a very basic level. Very basic. I should bold, highlight, underline. But even on BitMEX, I still like to do shorts and stuff. But I look at it as education. I mean, I'm not putting tons of money on these trades, But yeah, identifying good projects. And if you're just price checking and trading all day, if that's your game, great. But if it's not, that's time you could spend reading and learning about this incredibly complex revolution.
It is. Yes. Yeah. Don't get caught up in the whole trading thing. If you're not a if you're not a guy off Wall Street that can read trends and stuff, it's just you're just going to waste your time and waste money. You're just going to lose it. Money chasing that next hill and buying at the very top and watching it just plummet this minute you buy it. Just watching it plummet. It's awesome.
Yeah, well, awesome for some, but I mean, it's better to learn the lesson early, and I'd say that, I'd say that trading in general, it's psychologically quite difficult, and even if you have the technical understanding, having the it's kind of like poker too, going on tilt, right? Even if you have the technical understanding, do you have the emotional intelligence or whatever you want to call it? It's not easy.
Yeah, it was a great literary quote from one of the greatest movies ever, Friday, Worm, saying, "You mess with my money, you mess with my emotions." So that's why I can't be a trader.
Yeah, and it's also funny too, where you have like these like 17-year-old guys on YouTube reading charts and they're getting 50,000 views and people are following these like 17, 18-year-old guys on social media, which is actually kind of driving the price a little bit. Maybe it could influence that, and they're starting to buy these coins, and you're like, wow, what a mania that's being created.
And I'm guilty of probably pushing that too, because I was right there loving it and watching those videos too and trying to follow it, and that's these guys that were pushing what the heck was it? Can't even remember the name of the coin now, but it was, of course, it was started off at like cents, and it was skyrocketing, and went up to like $50-something, and this guy was just pushing it every day, and of course I bought it at like $60. Not even 5 minutes after I bought it, it started on its way back down, and it ended up somewhere around $11. So that's. God, just I guaranteed whatever I bought, the minute I bought it, it all started plummeting. And I was listening to these YouTube shows, and I'm watching these cats. Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy $200,000 worth of that today and see what happens. I'm like, how are they making that kind of money? And when I came to figure out, it was they were getting they were getting people to buy in on reference, and you use their code to get into some of this stuff, and that's how they were making all their money. And of course, they were getting all these subscribers and likes, and boy, advertisers love that. And so, yeah, that sure hurts, but live and learn.
Yeah, and you got to play the long game. Like the knowledge you learn, as soon as you're able to make your own decisions, without having to watch YouTube videos, and I guess you're always making your own decisions technically, but meaning that you discover something on your own and you start thinking about it, and you're able to read numbers yourself and make an investment, and maybe a long-term investment, maybe not a short-term trade. That's when you start, I think that's the long game that's going to happen. The more you learn, the better. I would think, okay, I should be careful saying this. Maybe the more you learn, the assuming it's with humility and you're kind of testing your assumptions, the better investor you'll be. But it probably comes down to following a couple fundamentals of investing and then combining that with the knowledge you have in the space.
Yeah, and you're not going to get rich overnight. If you would have bought this stuff years ago and held on to it, yeah, it wasn't a short-term investment. It was a long-term thing too. So these people that were
Dean, let me add something there. Okay, and I'm part of this category, so I'm not. Like I hear this, like, oh, if I would have bought in 2011, I'd be really rich today. My response is, no, you wouldn't. I'll tell you why. And I would have sold it too, because I wouldn't have understood Bitcoin, right? So if I bought it at $300 and it went to like 1,200, I was like, dude, I just made 4x. So unless you like bought it and then became interested in the movement, became fanatical about it, and read Satoshi's white paper and connected with the community, you probably wouldn't have held it. And even if you did become a fanatic about it, you still might have sold it anyway, because you're like, hey, well, I have some bills to pay. So it's a funny thing that we trick ourselves into thinking that we would have done that. Maybe if you said, hey, I'm sure I could have been part of this group too. I set up Bitcoin mining back in like 2010 and mined some Bitcoins, lost my computer and it's in my friend's garage. I forgot about it, and then I saw it. Holy shit, Bitcoin's really high. Maybe that would have been the only way. If I forgot about it, then I would have kept them to 2017.
That's the only way you would have kept them, is if you would have bought a computer, put it on there, and
Yeah.
forgot about it.
And we saw those stories too of people like with their recovering their Bitcoins, and the guy in England like going to like the dumpster and finding his wallet and stuff.
I heard about that. Did he find it?
Yeah, he did. But yeah, there's probably, I'm sure there's a guy that went to the dumpster that didn't find it, right? But the ones you hear about, but also just psychologically, it's easier to go from 0 to 1 million than it is to go to 20 million and back down to 3 million. So just saying, hey, I wish I wouldn't have, just knowing that you were that close to having that amount of money can be psychologically difficult. And I actually have a buddy who was buying some recreational things on Silk Road, and he left his coins there, and they got confiscated, and it would be a good amount of money today. So he's always like, "Don't bring up Bitcoin. I don't want to hear about Bitcoin."
Yeah, it could leave a sour taste in your mouth if you lost your shirt on it. Yes. But yeah, like you say, it's the long haul, and I hear a lot of people. I don't know if they're experts. There's everyone who's in this seems to be an expert, but I ask people, and the majority of people tell me December 31st, 2018, the price of Bitcoin is going to be, and majority of them say 20,000. What do you think?
Well, I'm not an expert, but so just to get that out of the way, but I would say that because of the hype and because of the institutional money coming in that didn't have access before, I think above 20,000, above where we were last December, seems pretty reasonable to me. That doesn't seem like a crazy prediction. I'd expect it to be higher this December.
Yeah, I actually talked to one guy the other day, and he said 40. So that was kind of the highest one I've had so far is 40. Now, what about John McAfee? Do you follow that cat? Do you
I try not to. I saw the documentary on him in Belize, which was a fantastic documentary. But I don't know, some of his. I don't know if you saw the most recent thing he did, where he he said he stuck a harmonica up this Navy SEAL's ass because he interrupted him while he was having an orgy or something, and then he beat him and he threw a photo on Twitter.
I didn't know that was real. I didn't know it was that's got to be fake.
Yeah, I don't know if it's real or not, but I was just like, oh man, this guy is nuts.
Who has a harmonica? And
yeah. Well, no, apparently the Navy SEAL guy who he hired for a security detail was playing the harmonica, and that was interrupting his orgy. But so I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of that story, but in any event, so yeah, I realized he was able to make money showing a lot of coins. He's done a lot for cybersecurity in general. So that is the one piece where I'm like, oh well, he did launch McAfee Security, so he understands cybersecurity. But outside of that, it's not someone I follow on a daily basis. Although I did just cite like one of the most recent things that happened to him. So
yeah, yeah, I kind of lost all respect for him whenever I was watching some interview, and he couldn't keep his hands off his nose, and he just kept wiping and wiping and wiping. I'm like, what's going on there, John? What's the issue with your nose?
Yeah. He parties hard for a 72-year-old.
He does.
He parties hard. He would party hard for a 25-year-old, but being in his 70s, it's pretty
yeah, crazy. And he must get paid just a bankload of money to just mention somebody's ICO on his Twitter feed or something, right?
That's what people are saying, that he gets paid a good amount of money because he's able to make the price. He's able to influence the price so much. Hopefully get to a day where someone like that can't influence the price, but I don't think we've hit that day yet.
That's a shame, and because I think there's still so much sharks and blood in the water, and people are just on a frenzy right now, and anything that they can sink their teeth into right away that feels good, they're gonna do it, and people like that kind of facilitate that frenzy. So.
Yeah, man. I mean, I try to remind myself, I could. I've gone to meetings where I see people talking about projects that seem absolutely ridiculous to me. Um, I'm like, man, that sucks because they seem like good people. They are good people, but they're gonna get crushed, and I just feel it. But there's plenty of people that know a lot more about investing and you know cryptography than I do. Uh, that look at me and they're like, oh, that Matt, he's a good guy, but he's gonna get crushed. It comes full circle. And I'd be naive to think that I don't have a my portfolio. There's no guarantees.
No, no, of course not. No, no guarantee.
And I mean, it gets very complicated too, Dean. Just one last thing here that I've learned from, I guess, like from Chris Bernisk and Ari Paul is just understanding that the token, like a project could be successful, but the token may not capture the value of the project. So people are buying the token, assuming that's going to capture the value of the project. Ripple being the biggest example, but also some of the smaller ones as well.
Yeah. That was one of the first things I ever bought was Ripple, and I made some money on that. I got it at 75 cents, and I ended up selling it at $3. Thank God. And then, and of course, I went to the slot machines and gave it all back.
Man, that's buying it at 75 cents. I mean, it's well, there are people that bought in at like a fraction of a penny. So when it hit $3, I don't know if they sold though, because sometimes you become such a believer. And who's to say? I mean, Ripple could go hit $8. I don't know. I'm not personally a fan of them. And we actually did a show on 5 Minute Crypto. We talked about we called it Ripping on Ripple, and we just showed the difference between the company and the coin. And then there was the Swell conference, which was ran by Ripple. They took it down, but we had the timestamp video on YouTube for a long time. It was like 5 hours and 5 minutes, and it's a round table of 4 Asian and South Asian bankers, and they asked them if they say any use for XRP, and unanimously, none of them saw use. They're like, we'll use Ripple's technology to create our own private coins for transactions, but we don't see any use for XRP. And that was at their own conference, which is shocking to me. But no one really cared. Yeah. So.
Yeah, they do put out quite a bit of mail, and a lot of press releases about their involvement with banks and this and that. And it seems like if you had that kind of publicity and stuff, that your coin would just keep going up. But that didn't seem to help them very much.
Yeah, well, I mean, their market cap is still like 37 billion right now. I don't know. 2-bit idiot, who's anything but an idiot, was like, I didn't understand Ripple at $1 billion valuation. Definitely don't understand them at a $100 billion valuation. Yeah. And they were flying at some point.
Yeah. Okay, so back to our Bitcoin.com thing here. Are you the one that built their the official channel for the YouTube? Are you building that and populating that?
So I'm not part of the YouTube. We have Terry that runs Bitcoin.com TV, and maybe some other people involved. And we're a big team, so I don't want to. And obviously, the podcast network, I have Isabel, the editor, Emily on social media, the news team, which I mentioned, that helps me with the stories, Nick and stuff. So just to make sure that's clear, I am the face of it, for better or for worse. But yeah, the video team, Bitcoin.com TV, I think that a number of people post videos, but Terry Brock definitely does a lot of shows there. Video is a whole different beast from audio. Like we talked before, I'm still trying to figure out great sound. Then video quality, that's going to be another. Because then here's the problem with sound. You have all these like weird cloths on the wall, and they're like, okay, wait, now I need a studio. But I can't do the studio in here because it's look really weird with all these paper towels, seemingly paper towels and like old T-shirts on the wall, right? It's you're back to square one.
Well, you watch this video, man. I'm telling you, you watch the video and you see how this cat does this, and you be like, and it actually looks really good with the way he did it. I mean, he put some time, effort into it. It wasn't like a 5-minute thing, but he put some time and effort into it, and he made him look really good. And he may have even spray painted him or something like that. But when you put him on the wall and you put some time into the framing and stuff, it actually kind of looks like art, you know. And if you get yourself a little banner, like I'm actually gonna start doing video on mine besides just the screen capture here. And I had a Crypto the Wonder Dog banner printed up. I'm a commercial photographer, and one of my clients is Roland, the printer company. And so I called them yesterday, and they're actually going to print me up a little poster that says Crypto the Wonder Dog and put it up behind me. And I do have a face that only Mama would love. It wasn't quite created for television, but it seems like that's what everybody is asking for. They're like, hey, how come you don't do video on your show? How come it's just a screen capture? I think they said you get more people liking your show on YouTube if you put some more video up there. So I'm going to try it and see what happens, you know?
Yeah. I think, there's no downside, right?
Oh my God, I'm going all the time. You know, I saw these guys that were putting out an episode like every week and a half, and I'm like, why can't you put out an episode like every day? Now I know why.
Yeah. You're like, just kidding.
I could do 3 in a day. What are you talking about? So, now I'm lucky to get 2 out a week, which I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do about 2 a week. So, I actually have a show tomorrow, or Thursday with the guys down at XYO down in San Diego.
Oh, I don't know who they are.
They're
all over. Well, they're on my LinkedIn feed, and they're all over it. And I like cars, and I saw a little article that they had got J.R. Hildebrand from the Indy Racing. And if you know anything about Indy Racing, he smashed into the wall in 2011. He was in the lead. He was coming down the finish line to hit the checker flag, and at the very last second, he went into the wall and didn't win. So I saw they picked him up as a spokesperson. So that's kind of what sparked my interest in them. So reached out, and they agreed to do a little show with me. I think on Thursday.
Cool. That sounds fun. I'm curious, Dean. Last question for you. What are you driving?
Well, I used to have BMWs, and then my wife talked me out of those and into. I love Explorers too, so I have an Explorer now. But I'm actually working on a '64 T-Bird that my dad bought brand new, and we've held on to it all these years. And I've moved it back and forth from New Mexico to California, and back and forth 2 times now. And now it's sitting in Riverside at a buddy's house. He's got a restoration garage, and so I've been working on it now for about 3 years, getting it back to a drivable state. And I bought a donor car, so I'm gonna hopefully within the next year or so, I'm gonna have my '64 T-Bird convertible back up and running, and my dream is that before my dear old pops passes away, that we'll be able to take one more cruise in that. I remember riding in it when I was like 3 or 4 years old. I remember riding in the back seat, standing up, without a seatbelt on, 3 years old, just cruising around. Not dangerous at all. But
that's a beautiful car, and drive that down the coast on the Pacific Coast Highway. That sounds like a good fit for that type of car.
It is, man. I think I'm going to paint it white because it was white. He got it when it was pearl white, and he put a blue stripe down the middle of it, and it was really kind of cool at the time. But I kind of want to put it back to kind of original, and some wire wheels on it, white leather interior. Oh man, I can't wait.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
There you go. But my daily driver right now is a freaking Prius. So I'm not a head turner when I'm cruising.
Yeah.
When I'm cruising around, man. What do you got going over in Colombia today? What's your agenda for the day?
Man, so after this call, I'm sure there's 100 messages and from Bitcoin.com team members, things I forgot to do or need to do. Take care of those. And I would like to get outside today. I want to go to the gym. podcast in the cave all the time. And actually, I got a friend visiting. I'm taking her to the coast. We're gonna go camping on an island this weekend. So yeah. We're going to this abandoned island in the Caribbean. I won't say abandoned. Yeah, man. So I'm looking forward to that. I told the Bitcoin world, make sure nothing interesting happens Saturday or Sunday because I won't be there. But I'm all honesty, Dean, I'm excited to disconnect. No phone, no internet. I'm not even bringing my computer. This was like a big anxiety thing last night, and I was like, man, I just want to go with a backpack, go free. And my friend, she pressured me into. I just called the hotel. I was like, do you guys have any computer? All I have to do is download a podcast, post it. This week in Bitcoin on Friday. So I'll do that, and then. But I'm not bringing my laptop just to do that one thing, And so it's like, all right, I'm leaving my laptop at home, so it will be whether I like it or not. I have to, I'll be forced, and a great force to read, be part of nature, and disconnect. So pretty excited for that.
What a life, man! What a life! I got to come hang out with you, man. I never been down.
We'll come down. I say the same thing about Southern California, man. I gotta come hang out with you. I think there's two pretty good locations there.
I'll take you out. Are you a photographer? You like taking pictures?
Well, my mom's
a photographer. But I like driving around to cool places where you can take good photos.
All right. Well, that's my main job is photography. So I'll take you around. Go take you some cool places. We'll go hang out in Hollywood. I got a buddy up in Calabasas, and we're always hitting the cool the little parties, not not celebrity studded events, but we get to go in some really cool places, have a couple of adult beverages, feel good. Hang with the pretty people.
Sounds great. Maybe you'll have the T-Bird ready.
That would be awesome, man. That would be awesome. I got some work to do, man, but sure hope so. But hey, man, dude, it was great talking with you, man. This is awesome. This is fun.
Yeah. I'd like to come back. It was a lot of fun. And Dean, I love what you're doing, man. And let's do this.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Next time I'll be on your show. How about that?
Sounds great, man. Have a good rest of your day. And
all right, thanks, buddy.